Hi guys, Andrea Mills here. Today I thought I would start a series on parenting and dealing with behavior issues. I guess might be an appropriate title. I'm not really sure. I'll have to think about that a little bit more. But we were at the homeschool convention this last weekend and I wrote down a lot of ideas that I had from things that were discussed there. And then today is Monday, so my homeschool mom group was here and we spent a lot of time today talking about dealing with kids who don't pay attention very well and routines and all those kinds of things. So I thought, well, maybe this would be a good time to go ahead and start a series on just talking about all of that kind of stuff. So today, to start out with, I thought that we would talk about something that I think is kind of an overarching thing that needs to be addressed the very first, which is developing in your child a desire for maturity. It's interesting in the New Testament when the word perfect is used, that's how it's translated as perfect, but it kind of actually is the word that you would think of like being mature. So like a fruit, maybe an apple or something that's growing on a tree, and when it's ripe and when it's ripe, it's perfect or it's mature. It's fully complete and as it should be. It doesn't mean physical perfection, like there's no blemishes. It means it's able and ready to do the job it's supposed to do. And that is, to me, one of the most important things to develop in your child. But a lot of that just starts with our own feelings about it. And I think one of the first things that has really helped me is remembering that the point of my parenting decisions is that I am trying to raise an adult. I'm not trying to raise a child. I mean, they are a child already. I'm raising an adult. I want to mature this person and get them ready for adulthood. And I also had to deal with the feelings in my own heart of wanting them to not mature, like they're so cute and little and innocent. And a lot of times I think, oh, I don't want them to have to grow up so fast, or, I want them to just be a kid and all that. And I really had to get rid of my own nonsense feelings about that, because that kind of thinking keeps them being immature, and it colors how you approach things with them. And so for me, dealing with that silliness in my own mind, because do I really want a child who is immature? Of course I don't. I don't want my children to not grow up. The alternative is either, that they don't grow up at all, or that they physically grow up, but, emotionally and mentally and all that, they are still children. And, well, we see a lot of that in the world, and that's certainly not what I'm going for. What I have done with my kids repeatedly over time is explore with them what an adult looks like. And I'm saying that in the sense of, what does an adult do? And not the things like an adult gets to drink alcohol when they turn 18. Not that kind of thing. Or an adult gets to, I think a lot of times it's the idea that what teenagers do, that kind of partying and that kind of stuff. That's not the kind of thing that I want in my kids' minds of what an adult is. To me, an adult is, someone who does things that they don't want to do. An adult is someone who works hard and puts their family before themselves. An adult is someone who takes care of themselves. They don't rely on other people to feed them and clothe them and pay their bills for them. An adult takes care of themselves. And so just exploring first in your own mind, and then with your child in a time when, just some calm time. Sometimes these things just will naturally, the conversation presents itself, and just have that conversation of this is what an adult looks like, and go a step further and saying someday you're going to be an adult, and explore with them, what do you think that you're going to be like? What kind of work do you think you're going to do? And how many children do you think you are going to have? And where do you think you're going to live? And just kind of explore that and really plant that seed deep in their heart of where they're going, and not being careful not to focus on selfish fulfillments when you're talking about this, but thinking in terms of family and in terms of service and working and really just building up what what a man or what a godly man and what a godly woman look like. The next thing I would do, or that I do, that sounds weird, that I do, is I always am looking for examples of maturity and immaturity. And so when I see someone doing something that they don't want to do and they do it anyway, I like to point that out. Do you guys see that? Do you see that that person, like one of the things that always happens at our house is the dog pukes on the floor and Tom cleans it up. And of course, nobody wants to clean up dog puke. That's gross. But I'll say, look at Dad, he doesn't want to touch that dog puke, but he's got to clean it up, and so he's going to do it anyway. Or maybe showing someone who's spending their day helping somebody move or mowing the lawn or whatever it is, when they would probably have other things that they would rather be doing, but adults do the things they don't want to do. And so I love looking for those examples of somebody being mature and pointing it out to my kids, and not necessarily making it be a lesson, but just mention it kind of briefly and let that idea kind of soak into their brain. Also, on the immature side, one of the things that we love about YouTube is watching fail videos with the kids and just see, look at the foolishness of what people do and how immature that is, that they can't think ahead of what's going to happen. What's going to happen if I skateboard down this very steep thing and likely something's going to get broken, or there's just any number of examples of immature behavior in adult bodies on YouTube. So we love using those and say, yeah, see, this is what you don't want to be. And of course, there's also real life examples of people that we meet, and on occasion we have, especially more if the kids bring it up, we'll say, yes, that person did act very immature, but we try to be graceful about it, because everyone's learning and growing, and we certainly don't want our kids going around and saying, hey, did you know you're being immature? So we try to discourage that kind of talk, but if there is an obvious close to home example, then we also discuss that too. The next thing is that we really try to be sure to praise them when they act maturely. The other day, our pond that we have in our front yard, the water level was getting a little bit low, and one of the boys, without being asked, or I hadn't even noticed, he just did, and he went out and he hooked up the hose and he filled up the pond for us. And whenever those kinds of things happen, we really make a big deal out of praising them. Like, man, that was really adult-like to notice a problem that needed dealt with and to deal with it without even being told. So we really want to praise those kinds of acts of maturity. I want to keep talking and getting really specific and more practical as we go along in this series, but I guess I will just say right now, remembering that your kids are not broken, they're just unskilled, and if you're having trouble with some immature behaviors or frustrations with parenting, maybe anger issues and all those things, we're going to talk about all of that stuff in this upcoming series. And so if you have not subscribed, I hope that you'll do that if you want to keep talking about this with me. And we're gonna explore all sorts of parenting ideas. I am not an expert, but I do have a lot of thoughts on the topic, and I hope that you can find some use out of them and at least help maybe spark your own thinking and creativity on dealing with parenting problems. So we will see you again next time talking about parenting.